Thanks very much for taking time out for today's webinar for 1.90. Sean McFeely will be walking everybody through the new features of the SmartBuild software. So first, just kind of quickly, rules of the road, standard operating procedure for us. The session today is being recorded and we're going to post that video. Usually it takes several hours, but you can actually share that with other people in your company if they weren't able to attend today. And so as Sean goes through showing us all the new features, we're going to intentionally keep everybody muted, so it's not kind of a Tower of Babel. However, if you have any questions that you want to ask as we go, you'll see the chat button, the cloud in the upper right-hand corner. You can click on that and submit your question or comment, and we'll have somebody field that. I think Paul will be fielding that, and he'll text that question to Sean so we can actually reply if it's appropriate during the course of his presentation. So please don't hesitate to do that. And then when we get done at the end of the session, guys, we'll unmute and we'll just have interactive open question and answer where anything goes. Okay. So anyway, Sean will get started here in just a second, but you'll see in 1.90 we're really tickled to introduce this capability of we've had a series of updates here that are addressing the barndominium market, and this one is very significant. Here we're going to show you how you can now design 2 levels of interior floor space. So really tickled to have this one. Going forward, just FYI, as we always do, we'll take your input. We'd love your suggestions, and then we'll prioritize as we continue to move forward with future releases. Obviously, we're going to continue to fine-tune barndominiums. Just so everybody knows, speed, and our future enhancements right now, what we're really focusing on is our top priority is to optimize the system to give a quicker response time when you make changes. So we're really focused like a laser on that right now. But suffice it to say that outside of that, additional fine-tuning of our barndominium design capabilities are very much in the future. And so anyway, I'll just kind of leave it at that right now, and I'll hand it over to Sean and let him show you what we've got in store for you with 1.90. Okay, so Sean, go ahead and take it away.
All right, thanks, Keith. Okay, good morning, everyone. As usual, we'll go through the new features of 1.90. And we'll jump in here. The first thing, not a whole lot of settings with this release, but there are one item here I do want to go into the settings before we jump into a job. So I'm going to go into the setup wizard. And we have a feature very similar to something we did with the panels, but this is for the trim. And this is only for random length. If you don't have specific part lengths or stock lengths for pieces of trim, then this is maybe something you want to use. If you do have part lengths, then this does not apply to you. But just real quick, just so people are aware of this, so I just clicked on this random length ridge I just have here in my database, kind of a generic thing here. The new features are these minimum cut lengths and the maximum length. And we did this with the panels as well, the sheathing panels. And basically, you can set a minimum cut length here, and this is in inches. If you set this to something like 2 feet or maybe 3 feet or whatever you want, you could set this to 10 feet if you wanted. For the minimum cut length, what's going to happen is with the random length, you'll basically, if you have a 50-foot long piece, it's going to give you a 50-foot long piece of random length. If you have a 6-inch piece, you're going to get a 6-inch piece of random length. And what this minimum cut length does, anything below this number here, it's just going to kind of round it up and put it into a 24-inch piece in this case. So if you have anything less than 24 inches, it's going to round that piece up, and it's going to just give you a 24-inch piece. And then that's going to be, it's going to act just like a 2-foot piece of whatever trim. In this case, it's going to be this ridge, which, you know, I don't know how much that makes sense, but that's just the example here. And then with the maximum length, kind of the opposite, where you can put in a maximum length similar to the panels that we did before. So if you put in something like 20 feet or 30 feet or whatever you want in here, it is in inches, but so you have to do a little translation. But if you do have a long ridge, say in this case, and you have 30 feet here, even though it's random length, it's going to cut that off at 30 feet. And then it's going, there is an overlap. So the next piece is going to kind of overlap. It's going to give you that overlap, and then it's going to start another piece. If you have a longer ridge, you may have another 30-foot piece, and it may cut you off, do the overlap, and then if it, you know, maybe it finishes off with another 10-foot 6 piece or something. So yeah, this minimum length, anything below this, it's going to round it up. It's just going to treat it like it's a 24-inch piece in this case. And then for the maximum length, it's going to cut you off at that length. You're going to get the overlap, and then it's just going to continue on until it finishes off that piece. So I think that maybe that's enough on this. We did do a video on the sheathing panel parts. It goes into a little bit more detail on this. And if you have questions, like he said, we'll have some time at the end. But I just wanted to make people aware of that. And again, this is just random length. So we'll leave it at that for now. So I'm going to go back home here. I'm going to jump into a job that I've already started on here. So I'm going to hit the edit button, and this will open up a job I've been working on with, you know, all the materials and the pricing. It's going to load up the 3D model and all the settings that I have for this particular job. And as Keith said, we are diligently working on speeding that process up. So here is this building that I have. Probably going to spend most of the time here on getting into wall input and loft input, and then the newest feature here, inputting second floor walls, or even third or fourth floor walls, if that's what you want to do. Before we get into that, I do want to point out here on the right side of this building here, we did some improvement to these awnings. So I input this awning already here using this feature. I went into the custom, and if I hit this edit 3D, we can select this awning. So I input this awning here over this kind of back door, and this is a feature that's been here before. There's nothing new in here really in terms of these settings, you know, but so I just came in here and did some specific settings. I don't have a flat ceiling. You can have a flat ceiling. If you missed that, for all the porches, you can now have a flat ceiling. We went over that in a previous webinar. So I entered this awning, and the new thing here really is we've just kind of improved and added some of the trim to finish this off. And we are still going to be working on these porches. These porches, there's a lot that goes on with these, and we have several projects. We're doing these kind of iterative process. So in this release here, we do have an open wall base trim that you can set. We are getting the 3 sides here with these panels. You know, we do have these corner trims. In this case, I have an overhang on this particular one. And I'm not using the flat ceiling, so it's actually putting these up above this ceiling liner panel up above here. We could drop this down, and it is extending to the edge. We do still have some work here. You know, there's several things we want to do here to be able to extend this all the way out, to kind of do a beam wrap in this case. Also, I think some more control over where the back of this liner panel sits against the wall, and some trim associated here up against the wall. So we do still have some work here to do, but there is some additional trims that we have here, and it does finish off and look a little bit better. And there's several different settings here. Right now, the way that this is going to work, there's several settings here just in the awning itself, but there are several things here that do control some of what's happening here. And really, these are treated like open walls at this point. So there is the open wall truss carrier. This will affect what's happening here. There is the open wall trim, which this open wall base trim is what we're seeing here. And the colors and some different things going on here. I do have a rafter porch. You can use rafters or you can use trusses here. And so in this case, the rafters are also affecting what is happening here. I did turn off a roof ledger and a bond plate, which comes into play with some of these shed type roofs. So those have just been turned off. So you might have to manipulate those. So there's a lot of different settings here that you can change and manipulate to change up your awnings. And you can do these in advanced edit as well to get to specific walls. So you can kind of play around with those. You can get some different types of awnings and some different types of materials associated with this. So probably I won't get into all those for now. We can get into this a little bit more at the end if you guys want to get into this. But just to let you know, we have kind of these new trims. It does finish out better, and we are going to keep working on these and continue to make some improvements. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. The other feature, maybe if you missed it, with the porches, with these shed type roofs, we do now cut the panels behind the porches as well. Not really on these awnings necessarily, but you could cut the panels here, where you can cut it off, or you can even define a gap here in your panels. So that's a feature I won't go into too much. We did a video on that, but you can cut these panels behind these shed roofs. Like with trusses, you can cut those panels, and you can define kind of an empty space in there if you want to. That will come down to the top of where this shed wall trim is. So that's a new feature, along with the flat ceilings that we did previously, and now we have these improvements to the trim, and we're going to keep going on that. Okay, I think that's enough for the awnings. So the real big thing that we did here are the second floor walls. So we'll get into those. And to do that, we'll just jump into this 2D view. So I'm going to click on the 2D view, and we'll just do kind of a quick interior for this building, and we'll just kind of walk through these a little bit. I already have some exterior openings in here. I'm going to click on the interior walls, and right now we are on basically the slab level, and we'll get into this a little bit more, but this is going to show you what we have going on here. So we're on the slab level at this point, and we could add rooms where you could define kind of all 4 walls or 2 walls. I'm just going to add a couple single walls here. So I'm going to hit add. We're just going to do full length. I am going to define, so custom is going to let me define the height of these walls. And that is going to be important right now. One thing that we did not get in here, in case you want to see this, we do want to do this, but it's not in here at the moment, where you can put ceilings on lofts, but the ceiling line for these walls on the slab right now is not going to just automatically cut off at the ceilings of the lofts above. So you do need at this point to define these first floor walls, whatever your height may be, and whatever this may be. You can define the bottom of the wall now, which this is a new feature as well in 1.90. And basically, this is going to pull the bottom of the wall up from, in this case, the slab. So if I put 1 foot here, we would have a wall kind of floating 1 foot in the air. So this is one of those features we thought it would be helpful in some cases. Probably not going to happen a lot. If it's something that people just don't use, we may just hide this or get rid of this. But so this is one of those areas where we could use some feedback. If this is just useless, then we can get rid of that. But we can think of some cases where that might be useful. But anyway, in this case, I'm going to leave that at 0. We have liner settings, and I do have those turned on. So we can define this liner. In this case, I am going to match like an interior liner settings that we have. For the framing, we're going to use stud frame. I'll just keep this 2x6 material. For the foundation, in this case, I'm just going to put none. This is going to be sitting on the slab. And I'm going to do the full length here. You could change the length of these walls right away. So now we have some settings on the walls. So we're going to input these. And there's some different ways that you can do this. What I'm going to do here, and it really helps kind of to zoom in. You're probably going to have to zoom in here. And to input these, if we hover over this bottom wall, and it really only gets there when you get to the inside half of it, just kind of FYI, this is a little bit, you kind of have to get used to this a little bit. So to make it easier, I'll just kind of point out a few things that have been helpful to me. You do have to get on the inside half of this wall. So we're getting a perpendicular wall here. If we come over here, we'll get a perpendicular wall this way. And the way that you drag those dimensions that we're getting there, if you're dragging to the right, you're going to get a dimension on the left of the wall, as you can see here. And then if you come back to the left, you're going to keep it a little bit, but eventually it's going to pop over where if you're going left, you're going to get a dimension on the right. So if let's say, like if we want this to be 10 foot from the left wall here, we'll drag like that, and then I'm just going to click to get that 10 foot. So now we have this wall input, and let's say we're going to put another wall over here, and again, so now a little bit tricky here. It kind of, so I want that to be 10 foot from, say, this wall here. And if you kind of come back here and then you come back, it's going to flip on you, so then you maybe go a little bit past and then come back this way if we want that 10 foot, which sometimes it gets a little bit dicey. We will probably fix this and change this up a little bit, but there we go. The other thing here is once you have these in, if you close that, if you click once on this, you'll get these dimensions, and you can double click on these and you can just enter a dimension. So sometimes it's easier just to input these and then you can dial them in a little bit. You'll see that you get a little change of the cursor here once you get over the top of this dimension. So once you get that cursor, you can double click and then we can input whatever you want here to get that. But I'm good with this. So we're going to keep just these two walls here for now. And yeah, so we'll stay with these. These are sitting on the slab. You can see that we are now showing these walls that I just input. It's giving us a little indication here of what these are going to look like. So this put an 8 foot, 8.5 or 8 foot and a half inch, I think, or whatever I put in there, sitting on the slab. And we'll talk about this over here in a second here, because as we get into the lofts, we'll see that we get some information over here on the right. So I flipped over to the lofts here, and I'm going to hit add. And again, we want to get in here and define some of these parameters of this. And so I'm going to have, Yeah, we have just a floor system sitting on top of here and one sitting on top of here. And in this case, we already have 10 foot by 8, which just comes in. Is kind of the default. One trick that you can do here, if you put in a plus, and I'm going to put in 3.5 inches, it'll just add that to whatever dimension you already have in there. So that, will put us into this other wall, and I guess I did do 2x6 walls, so maybe it'd make more sense to do 5.5, but whatever you need to do there. So I can also just change that dimension. For this width, one thing that is sometimes easier to do, I'm just going to put in 100 feet. It's not going to let me go to the outside of this space here. So when I put in 100 feet, it's going to just fill up that whole space, which is what I want to do. And I want to come to the edge here of this wall and the edge of this wall, but then we're going to overlap on this side over here a little bit. So that looks good in terms of the dimensions of this. The joist direction, I do want it to run left to right. And this gets a little bit confusing. This is something we'll probably have to clean up as we do some work on how we lay out these kind of doormats and the directions of these buildings. But for right now, when it says left or right for the joist direction, it's meaning like what we're looking at here right now. So I mean, it's left or right like this. So these are going to run from this wall over to this wall here. So that is what I want. We do have the product systems here for the ceilings if you have those set up. And I guess we could add a ceiling here. We can change up our materials. Yeah, I won't do too much with any of this. You can control the rim joist. I probably should match these. This is going to be the ceiling material. We can do a few things here with our ceilings. I'm not going to mess with these too much. I am going to put in, I just have none as my default for the floor deck, but I'm going to change that to an OSB that I have. And I think the rest of this we're going to call good. Yeah, I think everything in here, it's kind of the way we want it. So now I'm going to come back here. I'm just going to click in this space. And now we have a loft in this area here. While I'm at it, I want the same type of dimensions for this other loft. We're going to come out to this wall over here and put a loft coming this way. But as you can see, that's not exactly what you want. If you click on this, it'll flip these dimensions. And so in this case, it flips those dimensions, and now, yeah, we're just going to go with this. Yeah, so I'm just going to click here. So now we have these two lofts here, and they're two separate lofts. And then before we leave here, I'm going to actually do one other here. I'm going to do just a stair landing. And one thing I didn't do on this one, and we'll change that. I probably want those joists to run a different direction there. But I'm going to put in a little stair landing here. And so there's probably some things here that we want to mess with. I'm not going to mess with these too much. We're just going to leave these be. And this is one of those cases where I might just click on here and just put that kind of out in the middle of nowhere. I'm going to close down the lofts, and then you'll see that get a little hand here. If I click once again, we're going to get these dimensions. And maybe let's say this, I just want a 0 dimension. I want it right up against there. This, maybe we want like 4 feet coming off that wall. And then, we'll just call that good. Not a lot of design gone into this one, but we're going to say we want our stair landing right here. Okay, so now we can talk a little bit more about what's going on over here to the right. So you'll notice we do now have 3 levels. We have our slab, we have this stair landing, and then we have these upper lofts. And there's a few things you can do here. One, when you have these eyeballs, you can click on the eyeball and you can toggle the visibility of these. So right now, we are actively on the stair landing. And that's why this is a green color here and has this checkbox. We're seeing these upper floor and we're seeing the walls on the slab. We're seeing these upper lofts and the walls on the slab because we have them visible. So these walls are associated with this slab. If we want to turn those off, you just click on that and you're just not going to see them. You can turn them back on. Same thing here with these. Right now we just have lofts on this upper section. So if you click on that, you're going to not see those at all. So you can toggle on and off the visibility. We have this active, we have this checkbox. This doesn't do anything if you click on this checkbox, which could be a little confusing. We might have to clean that up or do something a little bit different, but this is not something you can check on. When you have it active, it's going to be highlighted. We're going to put some walls on these upper floors now. So to do that, I'm going to just click in this area. You can see you kind of get a change of your mouse. When you do that and click, you're going to make this active. If you double click in here, it just automatically is going to turn off the visibility. And then, yeah, I guess that really turns off the visibility. So if we click once, we're going to keep this visible and then make this active. So if we click once here, and then if we double click, it's going to just you're just going to turn off the visibility for both those levels. So a couple things here with the click and the double click. But now that I've made this one active and it's highlighted, we are now working on these lofts. So when I input these interior walls, I'm going to switch over. We are going to be inputting walls relative to these lofts. So unless we change the bottom of these walls, I'm gonna click add here again, add some individual walls. The bottom of these walls is going to be sitting on these lofts now. If you double click here and make your slab active, or just click and make the slab active, you're going to be inputting walls on the slab and dealing with the slab. Right now, everything we do with these walls, and if we put on some doors and windows, it's going to be relative to this active level. So something to keep in mind. And I guess while I'm thinking about this, if you do input, we put these walls or windows relative to this loft while it's active. If we delete these lofts, it's going to delete the walls and the windows associated with it. So just something to keep in mind, that these things get tied together depending on how you do this. But we can look at that in a little bit once we get a few things input here. So again, similar to what we did on the first floor, we're just going to input these. In this case, the ceiling line is going to go to the ceiling of this building. So these upper floor walls will get cut off at the ceiling if that's what you want to do. So if you have flat trusses, it's going to cut off there. If you do have scissors or rafters, it will take those up to the top of the ceiling. And then again, we could put this floating up in the air. We're not going to do that. I do want to do like stud frame, and we'll keep 2x6, and we're going to say none for this foundation type. Not a huge deal, but I think some packages can possibly be tied to the foundation type, so we can say none there to just make sure you don't get any materials you don't want to get. But you can have a foundation for these walls, which on the upper floor may not make as much sense. But so again, same kind of thing here. I'm going to zoom in here, and in this case, I'm just going to kind of eyeball this. We're just going to put it right on the edge of these. Yeah. And again, zooming in probably helps here. And then when I drag towards the bottom here, it's going to give me a dimension I want. So I'm going to come up just a hair, and I guess 9'9" is where we want that to be. And so now we do have these walls input. And if you notice, when I'm putting these in, again, we're going to get this yellow indication of where these walls are actually going. And so you can see we're working on this upper loft area, and those walls are sitting on that loft. So we get some indication there with that bright yellow wall about where those are starting and where they're ending up. That kind of blue line at the top is where the ceiling height is in this case. So we'll call that good for these. And then if we do click over to the doors and windows, again, we are active on this loft. So when we're inputting these, they're going to be relative to this loft. So if we want to put in, let's say, a door here, and I forget exactly what might make sense, but it doesn't really matter too much at this point. You know, again, you can input your doors and windows like we've had. And I guess we do get an indication of kind of where this door is going to be. Again, with the yellow, so if I just click here, and we can do the similar kind of thing here where you get this, and we could manipulate these dimensions. A little bit hard to see, but if we click on this, I guess it's going to center in that wall, but then you can do things like drag, and I want to put that there. You can also come in here and, you know, if we want to put in some windows, this is going to be relative, and again, we get a little indication of where this is going to be with the yellow. So this is relative to this loft that we have active. And so when we're putting these in, they're going to be looking at this floor system for the heights of these, the header, the header height. So something to keep in mind. Also, these are associated with this loft again, so if we delete these lofts, it's going to get rid of all these. If you want these to be relative to the slab, you can click on the slab and put in these openings, and it's going to be relative to the slab. Okay. I think that might be everything. One thing I do want to come back and do, in order to change or edit any of these, you do need to click on the type that you want to edit. And so in this case, this loft 2, if you double click over here, it's going to open up this properties box. You can also click over here on loft 2 and it'll open the same thing up. And in this case, again, this joist direction, a little bit confusing, but this is up down. So it's relative to what we're seeing here, not really to the building itself. So I want these joists to be running across or up and down, I guess you could say. So I'm going to change that, and we'll hit update here. And yeah, I think we're good. One thing you can do with these, we are going to have some work on getting like some layouts and other outputs associated with these upper floors. There are no new layouts that are going to handle these upper floor lofts at this point, but we are working on that in the background, and we will have some specific outputs that we do in the future. You can use the print button in this view if that helps you. If you hit the print, you'll get a PDF of whatever you see on the screen here. And so that's something that may be useful for you that you can use. You can go into a PDF editor potentially and work with these a little bit. And this watermark is optional. We can get rid of that if you don't want to see that. So just one other thing I wanted to point out there. You will get...
Sean,
yes, sir.
You're not showing that. You're not sharing that PDF.
Oh, yeah. I forget. You got to switch that up. I'll redo this. I will share this tab instead. And so now you should be able to see. It's just going to print whatever's on that screen. And you can't have your logo up here. So this is what we're going to get. If you hit that print button, and how do I get back to this? Are you seeing my screen, Mark? The
No.
SmartBuild screen?
No, we just see this. We just see the board.
Okay.
Go ahead and share your screen again.
Yeah, sure. Okay. There we go.
Okay,
right?
so we did have a question. Yeah, we had a question come up. How did you come up with the 9 foot 1.5 inch loft height? Okay.
I'll let you answer that, Mark. Good question.
Okay. So if you double click on that loft,
Unmuted.
loft 1 or loft 2.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a height. That height is 8 feet. Now that is 8 feet from its reference points to the bottom of the loft. And then we have 2x10 joist material, which is, anybody know?
9 1/4.
9 1/4. So now we're at 8 foot 9 1/4. And then it ignores the ceiling, because the ceiling is going to go inside. But we have this OSB 1/2 4x8. Now I happen to know, because I peeked, that your OSB 1/2 is actually 1/4 of an inch thick.
Ooh. Yep.
so now we are at.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, this must be 9 1/4. Yeah, so we were at 8 foot 9 1/4 plus 1/4 inch, which is at 8 foot 9 1/2, plus the 4 inches for the slab. So the top of that slab is 4 inches from ground level. The top of this loft is 9 foot 1 1/2 inches from ground.
Yep, that's a good question. So it's from grade, right? Yeah. So
Yep.
the very top of this loft from grade, 9 foot 1 1/2. And so this is probably not exactly where we want this, because my first 4 walls were not at 8 foot exactly, but yeah, that's a good question.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to hit return, and we can come back here and answer any other questions, but so hit return, it's going to ask me to save the changes. I'm going to say yes. It's going to apply all that stuff we did in the 2D view to the 3D view. The price went up, so all the materials associated with that are on our material list. And something that's new here, and you can see those windows went in at the relative to the floors. Something else that's a little bit different here is this roof toggle will actually toggle you through the different levels. So when I click it once, we get rid of the roof, and we can see our upper floor walls and our lofts. If I click it one more time, it's going to get rid of those lofts altogether. And then if I click it one more time, we're going to be back to the start. And so there's our stair floating out there. Did that go along? Okay, so that is an additional. So that one's on a different level. So it's another click here to get rid of that one as well. So you can toggle through your different levels, your different floors, including the roof, depending on the visibility you want. And all the other visibilities are going to be the same. So if we want to take a look at these, kind of zoom in, you can turn those off. And you can still
John, can you go back to the 2D view? And yeah, now go return. And one thing that I don't think we mentioned yet is that we have not, this is running on the beta site, and we haven't posted this to the live site. And that thing you just saw is part of the reason why. We are still knocking the rough edges off of some of this stuff. And so we're planning on posting this to the live site next week.
right.
Middle of next week. But we wanted to keep this cycle of demonstrating stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. Gene just asked, hey, how come I don't have that? So that is why.
Yep. You can go to your beta site, and you can mess around with this before we release it, which We really like when people do that because we can't test everything in all the different settings. So if you do have some time, if you do want to play with this and get used to it, if you put in beta in front of your login, you can use the same login information and you will be on your beta site. It's not exactly what you use day to day. It's behind in terms of, the jobs and things that are in there. Any changes you've made to your settings may not be totally up to date, but it is a fully functioning system and it will have this new stuff right now. So we, like Mark said, yeah, we're hoping to post this next week, Tuesday evening or maybe Wednesday evening. So if you have time, please go up there and play around with this. So Mark, I missed what happened there, just real quick.
I put a link in the chat. If everybody goes there, you'll see the little link for beta site.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
What happened there is if you go to 2D view now and click on one of the other levels over on the right, and then hide, click on the eyeball for the slab, the lower level, and then go back. It is dutifully hiding the walls on that lower level. So,
okay. Yeah, I didn't notice that. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So if you go back to 2D view and then back again, then you can toggle through the levels, and it probably makes a little bit more sense.
Okay. Yep.
So now hit the roof, and this will hide the upper floor. Hit it again, it'll hide that landing.
Yeah, a little confused because we do want to be able to hide those lower walls. Okay. There you go.
Yeah, well, they're really, in the 3D view, there's really no reason to hide the lower walls. The lower walls that is the lowest you can go. There's nothing hiding underneath them, so.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
That's the intent. Yeah.
Yep. I guess one thing to mention that somebody asked about, I figured I would just mention it. If you have permission to see the price, you can double click on this job name to hide it. And that will also hide the summary and the job review. So if you don't want people to see the pricing with a customer, you can double click up here, just kind of a reminder that came in. But yeah, so all these materials from everything we input there in 2D are on this material list at this point. And really, I think that is pretty much everything that I had wanted to show here. We do have another video that's on YouTube that shows some of the inputs and the lofts and the second floors. It's kind of a short condensed version. You can take a look at that. And then we will post this video once we get it prepared and posted. It usually takes a couple days. But I think that's pretty much everything I had. So we can kind of open it up for any questions that have come in or anything else we want to talk about. Or if anybody else at SmartBuild has something you think needs to be covered here, we can do that as well.
Gene Keaton just typed in a message. He's trying to get a personal shop laid out to get all the materials for interior walls and loft included in the price and materials list. Will that be ready once the update is posted next week? So
yeah, it should be, assuming all the materials and everything are set up properly with the pricing. You should be able to do that. You can actually do that right now, right? Unless there's walls on the second floor on the loft. Did I understand that correctly? So right now you can input lofts. What's new with this one is this visibility here and being able to put walls on the second floor relative to, say, this upper floor.
There's a Mr. Martinez. How do you put the leader? I don't know what that statement means. Could you expand on that?
The leader,
Oh, he may have hit send too soon. That's what happened on my first comment. I hit send too soon. Does anybody else have any questions? Oh, we don't add stairs yet, Steve. Oh, ladder. Yeah, we don't add stairs yet.
yeah, that's a good point.
They're not. It would just be too difficult to actually put in stairs. You'll have to figure out where you want your stairs to end and how you want the shape of the stairs. If you're going to have a landing, Sean showed you putting in a landing there, just at the halfway height. But you would have to do all the stair figuring yourself after the fact.
Yeah, that is a bigger task for us. That's something we want to do in the future. But yeah, right now there isn't anything in the 3D model or the 2D that you can do to input the stairs themselves. You can go into your material list and you can add things from your catalog, or you can add miscellaneous items where it's just kind of special order and define whatever you want and then add it to your material list. But yeah, unfortunately, the stairs is a more complicated project that will come later.
Yeah.
It does remind me of one other thing I wanted to mention. We are going to be doing the calculation and the tokens for these interior walls and the lofts coming up with the next release. So that way you can do calculations based off of the materials and different things associated with the lofts, which may help with the stairs, maybe not. But basically you have to design the stairs yourself, but then you could input a price and some materials associated with the stairs manually with this add catalog or add miscellaneous.
Can you go back to the 3D view and turn the Excel off? Gene had a question. The joists are not displaying in my 3D view. So
Thanks.
You'll notice, yeah, we've got joists in here. And the reason that we have joists in here is because Sean put joists in his loft. So if you don't have a joist material specified, which is, yeah, if you go to the lofts, there's your joist material. If that's set to none, you won't get any joists. So it's probably worth taking a look at how those settings are set up. They're probably set to none because you probably never set up your floor framing, would be my guess.
Do you see that,
That's
Gene?
something
If you're looking on your computer, can you go here to create a loft and make sure you have 2x12
It
set?
says he has 2x12 set.
You could potentially, the materials may have a 0 depth.
Right. What is your
Distributor.
yeah, your distributor? Like, I can go on to the live site and check that for you, Gene, right now.
So that the company name.
Yeah,
Burrows.
Burrows. Okay.
Ah.
I'll check for that. You guys go ahead and talk amongst yourselves.
Okay. Oh, homestead structures.
Homestead structures. I'll go there. Right now, I just went to Burroughs, but I'll go check Homestead. Okay.
Thanks, Paul.
Good. Yep. Well, anything else? Well, I guess maybe, I don't know if we want to wait for Paul to get an answer.
I think we'll get back to Gene on that.
Data still, I'm still traveling there. Sorry, it's just things
Yeah.
take time.
Do we do?
I'll get with you, Gene. I'll just let's see. I probably got your email. Okay, so I'll contact you here shortly after this.
Sounds good. Okay, anything else? So like he said, we are working on the speed of the program. That's going to be something that's coming up in the future. We are working on some improved outputs. It's going to be a bit of a project for us, but that is coming. Several other things that we're going to have on the list that, hopefully are going to be helpful for you. And if you do have feedback on lofts or anything else, please let us know. Really appreciate you taking the time on this kind of a slow Wednesday, maybe. Definitely cold where I'm at. Anything else? Going once, going twice. It's a good time to give us some feedback or ask any questions. Okay. Well, if there's nothing else.
Everyone have a wonderful new year, and look forward to working with you guys next year to make this software even more better.
Yes, exactly. All right. Well, we'll talk to you all later.
Thanks, everybody.